There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy a favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
As a dealer, are you truly maximizing your opportunities when it comes to providing lighting solutions for your customers? Sure, there's the bulbs category as well as the off-road lighting category, maybe even auxiliary and commercial fleet stuff. But have you thought about the Xenon category? Well, if you haven't in a while, you've tuned into the right show, because on today's workshop, we've got product expert Chris Chiang from Lumens Hpl to shed some light, excuse the pun, on a category and an opportunity you may just be missing out on. This is CMA Workshop presented by SiriusXM, Lumens Hpl, and it starts now. What's going on, guys? And thanks for tuning into this CMA Workshop presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and today I hope you're ready to get your learn on, because that's what Workshop is about. Yes, we're going to show you some product, but we're going to teach you something. We're going to show you and maybe shed some light, like I said, on opportunities you may be missing out on. Now, Xenon, that's not a new word, is it? I know what you're thinking. Ben, Xenon, that's so 2012. Well, guess what? There are a ton of vehicles out there that have Xenon lighting, and there are solutions that you need to be aware of to make sure that you are communicating the different options that are available to your customers. Now, before I get too deep, let's go ahead and connect with their Canadian distributor in Importel, their 12-volt specialist, Mr. Romesh K.
Hey, Ben, how you doing today?
I'm doing really good, Ramesh. We're talking about lighting this week on CMA Networks, and we've come upon a brand which, honestly, I feel like they have their own shtick. They have their own, they jam to their own tunes a little bit when it comes to the lighting category. You know, Chris is a very knowledgeable expert in the field. And, you know, they're not about the flashy boxes or the marketing. They really
The fluff is the lack of fluff.
It's more the lack of fluff, which I feel is very appealing.
That is the fluff, is
You're
that there is no fluff.
There is no fluff, exactly.
No,
so
really.
we're talking specifically about an opportunity in Xenon today. And I feel like a lot of dealers, and I think you will agree, may overlook this opportunity. I want you to kind of shed some light on that so we can set up today's workshop.
Well, I think today's workshop is really more about missed opportunity, misinformation, misunderstanding. I think, you know, the word, you know, the prefix miss addresses a lot of aspects of the Xenon category. More often than not, because like you said, 2012, I mean, I think it was maybe even earlier than that, where we were upgrading incandescent bulbs to Xenon. And as you rightly pointed out, there's a myriad of vehicles from the mid or the early kind of 2010, kind of that mid range, where OE vehicles started to be equipped with Xenon lighting. And traditionally, we would just say, oh, you've already got Xenon, so we'll just move along. So a combination of things have happened. One is the vehicles have gotten older, and for the early adapters or adopters of those, not adapters, but adopters of those solutions from OE. And then also, as we've gotten further along, there is a huge number of vehicles that are coming from the OEs equipped with those solutions. And they've presented a massive market segment size that nobody's really addressing. And dealers, you know, I'll say the misunderstanding part is that we can't upgrade those. And the reality is we've been able to do it for quite a few years now with lumens. So when we're not looking, again, when we're misinformed as to what's available, then there's a misunderstanding of what we can offer.
I think people, dealers, consumers are quick to grasp on newer, latest trends. I think LED has kind of got everybody a little bit mesmerized of being an only option. I think what Chris is going to show us today is certainly going to give you the we're going to take a few steps out of the forest and take a look at the market as a whole, and then identify exactly what the options are, educate our viewers as to what those are. And I think by the end of this, we're going to see there's certainly some opportunities you want to reconsider by the time.
There's a huge opportunity. It's like massive market size, like I'd said earlier, and Lumens has been catering to that for, with I guess should I let it out? You did say LED.
I did.
So yeah, well. So between Xenon, OE Xenon upgrades and the different LED upgrades that are available, we actually have 3 flavors of solutions we can offer a consumer. So when a consumer walks into your shop and you see them with a projector headlight or a set of Xenons, you should be running towards that car, not running away from it. And traditionally, we just run away from it. We just go.
But we're gonna tell them exactly why they should be running towards the vehicle. Absolutely, and Chris. Equipped with what information exactly. Another note before we get Chris on. Obviously, again, repeat. Everybody knows this, but we're going to say it just in case you didn't. Obviously, Importel has expanded recently. There is now an Importel East footprint, which you guys already know about, and now a West footprint. So this Lumens Hpl brand may be new for a lot of our West Coast viewers.
Agreed. If they haven't been calling us already, then yeah, there's a massive opportunity for our West Coast dealers to get stuff next day from the Western warehouse, and not 3 or 4 days travel time or paying the overnight the small overnight premium to get stuff from the East. And obviously with the days getting shorter and the darkness getting longer, especially up in the mountains with the snow, and depending on where you're at between the Rockies or in the prairies, lighting is key. And being able to upgrade these things, and Chris from Lumens explaining what solution is appropriate and how to decide what your customer wants and what questions to ask, I think we're really going to be able to hit that out of the park with the consumers.
All right, guys. So again, thanks for tuning into this workshop. We're going to go ahead and bring on our expert in the field when it comes to Lumens Hpl. He is the president of HID Core or HID Core Industries. His name is Chris Chiang. Hey, Chris. Welcome to this CMA workshop.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, we're pretty excited about this. This is very unique. What we're equipping dealers with is very valuable information that could help improve their business and help capitalize on potentially more business in lighting this season. Can you tell us more?
Well, what we find is that a lot of dealers seem to overlook a large percentage of the market. For instance, if a vehicle came in and it had halogen headlights, the first impulse would be like, all right, let's improve their headlights by upgrading them to an LED bulb, a Xenon system, and whatnot. But if the vehicle came in with factory HIDs or a factory Xenon system, regardless if it's a BMW, a Chrysler, and whatnot, their first reaction would be, oh, we can't do anything with that. Let's maybe upgrade his high beams, maybe upgrade his fog lights, or overlook the whole lighting system altogether. And we want to remind everyone, especially for the coming lighting season, that there's a lot of those vehicles out there, and there are things that we should be doing and we could be doing to help the consumers improve their lighting system, or at least customize it. And one of the big misconceptions I think that people overlook is these Xenon systems, not only do they not last forever, but they will degrade over time. So Ramesh there came up to me one day and he asked the question, and I didn't even think about it. And he was like, it feels like my HID system wasn't as bright as they once were. And I was like, yeah, that happens. The bulbs will degrade over time, and you should change them, just like halogens. So before the actual light fails, we already have an opportunity to address this problem and be a little more proactive rather than reactive to the situation. Outside of that, we can also start planting a seed in the consumer's head that if something were to go wrong with the system, we as a Lumens dealer can service this vehicle for you. You don't have to go right back to the dealership. I would say 9, if not 9.5 out of 10 people that drive these vehicles, if you ask them, well, what happens when something fails on this? They don't think of going to their local parts store. They don't think of going to their garage that they work with. The first thing they think of is, I have to go back to the dealership. And really, they don't think about going back to that audio store, the 12-volt store, the remote starter store to get this stuff done. So at this point, when they're coming in, I would probably, like I said, plant a seed and mention to them, if anything goes wrong, come back here. It'll be worth your while. And from a new vehicle standpoint, I see a lot of consumers. They buy the vehicle, they've had Xenon systems in their vehicles before, regardless if it's aftermarket or OE, and they just don't like that OE color in their bulb, and they want to change it up right away because that's how they grew up. They like to customize their vehicles and so forth. And again, we can help with that. So coming with the coming season and so forth, I would definitely keep an eye on that type of stuff rather than just focusing on what the rest of the market is already doing. You got a halogen bulb, we'll put in an LED bulb. Well, what about all the other guys?
Absolutely. I mean, as a support to the color thing, dealers may not realize that even OE manufacturers like Ford with the Mustang, in 15, when they had a incandescent fog light bulb that came stock in the factory fog location, the factory Xenon was a different temperature or color range to match that fog light. When they upgraded in 16 as a running change to an LED fog light, which had closer to a 5K kind of color, they changed the factory Xenon bulb color to match. So for us as upgraders or vehicle upfitters, when we have a customer coming in and we're upgrading even a fog light bulb, and you've got a factory Xenon in there, there's an opportunity, speaking to Chris's point, to make it look like it was from factory and not kind of redheaded stepchild with crazy colors that don't make sense.
And if I could just add one thing before we move on, I think what you said there was clutch, Chris, in that planting the seed. You are identifying yourself as the specialist in that field that will be able to assist that customer when the time comes, that they have options. And if you're being proactive in that sense, they will remember that, because we're going to get into it for sure. But I have a feeling the cost of going back to the dealer to replace this stuff, probably not so exciting for as far as cost.
No.
It's a train wreck, honestly. Yeah. From a cost standpoint, yeah, it'll make you cry.
Okay, let's continue.
You heard it here first.
So Ramesh, did you have any questions for Chris based on those statements?
I didn't have any questions specifically. There are some, I think, misunderstandings. With at the dealer level. I mean, the consumer, they own what they own. They drive in, and I think the big one that Chris spoke to, that talk about misunderstandings or misconceptions. I mean, I had the same one until I asked Chris. I go, I feel like it's just not that as bright. I mean, it's a 16 car. It's only 17. I mean, I've got 60. I mean, I put a lot of mileage on it. I mean, it had like 60,000 kilometers on it in a very short period of time.
Right.
I was like, it feels like the bulbs aren't that bright. Like, yeah, they're not. Because you've got, at that point, 60,000, you got 3 years worth of driving on it, right? Effectively.
But, you mentioned Mustang, right? So my perception of this, and I'd like to see if you agree with that, Ramesh, it feels like a lot of the vehicles, especially that maybe I quoted the 2012 thing wrong. However, in my mind, a lot of these vehicles seem to be more of the luxury import German, the higher end type of premium vehicles. Is that no? All right, educate me.
Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Ford. I mean,
Really?
literally every domestic brand. I mean, it's that. I mean, even Cadillac, I guess, way back in the old North Star, the 32 valve North Star. I think they had a projector, but I mean that was a luxury car.
It
But
is
I
a
mean
luxury car, yeah.
that's trickled down to the masses. Right, like you can buy a $10,000 used car right now, like a 2008 whatever, and it's gonna have projectors in it, and they're gonna be dirty old projectors.
That
Like
really
any other consumable part, you change the
right.
tires, you change the brakes. I mean, it is consuming. The bulb is progressively, whether it's a halogen or a xenon, it is consuming itself,
Mm-hmm. Uh,
This
right?
Go ahead,
this
Chris.
stuff's been around for like 20 years. So I think it really started becoming popular back in the year 2000. We're now at 2022. So 22 years worth of vehicles with these systems in it. And I know you mentioned luxury vehicles, but I think it's not just for dealers that deal with luxury vehicles. I mean, the newer Santa Fe, Hyundai Santa Fe is not really considered a luxury vehicle, still a nice vehicle, but it can come with Xenon HIDs, right? First generation Teslas came with Xenon HIDs. And even nowadays, I still see a lot of vehicles come with factory HIDs. And back then, I mean, through the early 2000s, Dodge, Chrysler, Ford, they all had it in their vehicles, maybe as an upgrade. But again, now when you're picking up those more expensive vehicles, they could be in $10,000, $5,000 maybe.
Well,
And
2021 Sentra, depending on the trim level, was available because I was looking through their build sheets. Mid trim level, not the entry, but the one up from that, I think was where it was. A Lantra you can get depending on the trim level.
yeah,
So you don't need to. You can be purchasing brand new vehicles at under $25,000, and they're coming with, obviously the Jettas and the Golfs because that's, there's a trickle down from the higher trim levels and the R lines and the GTIs and whatever. But those are all available,
So
right?
the takeaway here is I'm wrong, and there are a ton of different vehicles beyond just luxury vehicles, which I had in my mind, such as Korean vehicles. So that means the takeaway is there's a crap ton of vehicles out there that you guys could, take advantage of in service. I think that's the takeaway.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's the
Get
whole
get
point.
get used to that feeling wrong because
It's okay. I'm okay to
with
be
Chris,
wrong.
with Chris in the lighting category, there's a
That's
lot
fine.
of feeling wrong for me.
Well, let's take a quick look at the different components of these systems, just to kind of refresh those that haven't worked with the Xenon system before,
Mm.
and as a reminder to those that have. In order to illustrate the different components of an OE factory Xenon HID system, we've chosen this headlight assembly for a 2012 Infiniti EX35. With factory Xenon systems, you'll notice that the bulb is never exposed to the elements and behind some sort of dust cover. Once the dust cover is removed, you'll see our first Xenon component for this headlight, the igniter. The igniter has one function. It sparks or ignites the gases in the Xenon bulb. To do this, the igniter converts 12 volts DC to 23,000 volts AC to spark the gases in the bulb. This is what causes an initial 10 amp draw per ballast on the vehicle's electrical system when a Xenon system is first turned on. If there is not enough current available, the bulb will not start. In this headlamp system, the igniter is a separate part, but this is not always true. In some Xenon bulbs, the igniter is built onto the bulb itself. You can generally recognize this by the big metal box on the bottom of the bulb. In other vehicles, the igniter may be integrated with the ballast in the system, in which it's all in one piece. When we remove the igniter by twisting then pulling it out, we reveal the next component in the system, the xenon bulb. When trying to remove the xenon bulb, some housings involve a simple twist of the bulb and pull. Other vehicles, like this one, may involve loosening spring clip holders. There are multiple bulb types for factory Xenon systems. You'll notice that they all start with the letter D. When looking at them physically, it looks like there's only 3 different types of bulbs. D1, D3, D8, these have the igniters built onto the bulb and cannot be removed. D2, D4, these do not have the igniters built on the bulb and simply twist in. D5, this has the ballast, igniter, and bulb all integrated into one piece. Although great in concept, in reality they don't produce nearly as much light as what consumers expect from a Xenon system. The biggest complaint we hear is that their vehicle with D5S Xenon is worse than the halogen headlamps they had before in their new vehicle. So what is actually different with the bulbs if they're physically the same? First off, electrically, the voltage and wattage will vary in bulb types within each group. Hence, they can't be interchanged. Because of this, what most people don't realize is that these differences will translate into different light output from the different types of bulbs. Here's a quick brightness tier list when it comes to the different types of factory Xenon bulbs. The worst light output would be the D5 bulb we had just mentioned. This all-in-one bulb is the only one that doesn't convert AC power to the light bulb and is only 25 watts. Next up, we have the D8 bulb, which is also only 25 watts, but is powered by 42 volts AC. Tied in second place are D3 and D4 bulb types, rated at 35 watts, powered by 42 volts AC. The brightest factory Xenon bulb types are D1 and D2 bulbs, rated at 35 watts, but powered at 85 volts AC. Moving on, the next part is not located in the same spot on all housings. You'll be looking for some sort of metal-cased electronic device. This is the ballast for the Xenon system. The ballast provides the necessary power to keep the bulb lit after the xenon gas has ignited. It does this by taking the 12 volts DC provided by the vehicle and converts it to the AC power needed to keep the bulb on. Unlike the limited bulb types, ballasts are a lot more vehicle specific and are not easily interchangeable physically. To tie everything together, there's the wiring. There's the wiring that provides power from the vehicle to the ballast. With vehicles that uses bulb types with integrated igniters, you will find a special wire that connects the ballast to these bulbs, designed to operate with the AC voltage between the ballast and the bulb. That's it. This covers most factory Xenon systems in a nutshell. Now that you have a better understanding of how they come stock, we can get into replacing and alternating parts within the system itself.
Not gonna lie, that is a lot to digest.
A little bit lot.
Only because, and I'll make this statement, I was not aware that there were so many different factory type Xenon bulbs. When I hear Xenon, I thought it was one type of bulb. I never knew that there was, I didn't even count, was it 6, 7 different types of bulbs? So, I mean, I thought you said...
And then there's ballast, there's on ballast bulb, or ballast on bulb, ballast off bulb, exactly. Separate igniter wires. There's all kinds of permutations and combinations.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I just didn't know. So now I know, which is great. We've identified, the different factory style type bulbs and how they work. But again, I'm going to repeat, I thought this was supposed to be easy. This doesn't sound easy so far.
Well, it's not easy, but with the help of our website, it'll make it a lot simpler. And maybe we could check out a quick video of how we actually use the website to decipher what parts are required for it. In order to illustrate how the website can help decipher the factory Xenon parts that is offered by Lumens, let's head over to the website at lumenshpl.com. On the home page, you'll see a section, Search by Year, Make, and Model. Let's check out what's available for a 2013 Cadillac Escalade by first selecting 2013 for the year, Cadillac for the make, and Escalade for the model, and click Search. From here, every item that's been associated with this vehicle will appear under the search results, 19 in this case. We're going to go to the left section on the page with the heading Choose Bulb Application. From here, we're going to click the option Headlight Bulb High Beam and Low Beam with HID Headlights. This will filter the results to parts related specifically for the HID headlights. You'll notice now that the filter is down to 5 items. Over here, as you scroll down, you should start to recognize some of the parts. We'll start with the most common one, which would be the D1S HID bulbs, which are the headlight bulbs in this case for the Cadillac. On the next screen, you will see pictures of the bulb, packaging, retail price, item number, and if you click on color, you will see various options available. For factory Xenon, we offer 3 different bulb colors, 4300K, 6000K, and 8000K. When we refer to the color of the bulb, we're referring to the color that the bulb emits and shoots onto the road. The color of the headlight when looking at the vehicle may vary, as the glass projector usually has a tint in it, affecting the hue of the lens. 4300K is the same color as the original Xenon bulb that came with the vehicle. It's roughly the same color as the halogen bulb, but a lot brighter. A lot of people find that they prefer a 6000K pure white or 8000K slight blue color to the light when driving, making these bulbs the most popular component we sell for factory Xenon systems. Many drivers would customize the color as soon as they get the vehicle. Lumens Hpl Xenon bulbs are built to the same specifications, if not exceeds the quality of factory bulbs. We offer these bulbs in D1, D2, D3, and D4 bulb types. D5 and D8 are not offered, as we recommend converting to LEDs for them. More on that later. Changing factory Xenon bulbs is as easy as replacing a standard halogen bulb. This specific demonstration is on a 2016 Ford Flex with a D3 Xenon bulb. Going back to the example on the Escalade, let's go back to the search results to see what other Xenon components we have available for it. Right here, you'll notice that there's a ballast for the Xenon system. Notice that there are additional known part numbers for this ballast should you want to confirm the ballast on hand matches the one you found on the website. If for some reason the model search does not show any results for the ballast, and you already have the ballast on hand, you can also go to the website, hover over Headlights, select OE Factory Xenon HID in the drop-down, scroll down this page that it leads you to and look for the OE Xenon ballast section. Once you've found it, click Learn More. On this page, scroll down ever so slightly and click See All Ballasts. This page shows all the factory ballast replacements we currently offer to match with the ballast you may have on hand. At the time of this video, there are over 30 vehicle-specific models covering over 90% of the market. Lumens Hpl factory replacement ballasts are physically designed one-to-one with OE sizes. That way, installation is simple. Remove old ballast, replace with Lumens Hpl. Our ballasts are built to the same specifications as original equipment, and in some cases might even exceed the quality. In this demonstration, on the same 2016 Ford Flex, we illustrate how easily it really is to remove the ballast and replace with the Lumens Hpl ballast. Going back to the Escalade example one last time, I'd like to mention that we do offer DC input connectors and ballast to bulb wiring in case you need to replace them. In this case, this one happens to do both. The advantages of working with Lumens Hpl factory replacement Xenon parts include that the parts are virtually identical with original equipment, so no modifications are required. They do not alter anything electrical on the vehicles. They maintain light quality, if not improve on it. Finally, they're competitively priced, offering a great cost savings for consumers. One last thing we should mention is that we do recommend replacing both ballast and bulbs at the same time when something has failed, especially if it's been 4 years or more. And for that reason, we don't actually warranty the parts anymore when they're sold individually to help dealers with the ability to actually get the job done properly when something's failed. Otherwise, an older bulb that's probably run towards the end of the life but is still functional can cause their new ballast to fail, and vice versa. If the ballast has run its life and now it's weakened and so forth, it's just going to cause the new bulb to fail, and it starts a whole cycle of the customer coming back and forth replacing parts over and over again when really they shouldn't really have to come back for another 4 or 5 years.
Oh, it makes perfect sense, right? Like what we're talking about is customer service at the end of the day, both for the consumer, from the consumer's standpoint and, a retailer. So what we want is, repeatability and predictability. And the only way we can do that is if you put yourself in the consumer's position, you're paying the labor to have everything removed, because sometimes you have to, like the ballast in the use case where that Chris showed, the ballast was actually accessible from the rear of the headlight housing. Sometimes it's up underneath the headline housing where you have to pull the housing out, and to do that you have to pull the bumper cover off, right? So once the consumer is paying for that and the dealer is doing that work, like it's a two-part proposition. So we're removing that, and we decide to only change one side, and we put everything back together, and typically things usually wear in a roughly about the same kind of time frame, sort of like tires or anything else. You don't change one tire typically. And then, boop, lo and behold, 30 days, 60 days later, the other bulb or ballast is gone, or the same bulb, same side, the bulb that you replaced is now gone because the ballast was slowly failing. And then we end up in this sort of difficult position, both for the inconvenience to the consumer and the inconvenience to the dealer, because now we're playing this game, and then the inconvenience, I guess, for back to Lumens going, hey, your bulb burnt out. Well, yeah, sort of. It wasn't the bulb by itself, right? Because we didn't do our due diligence and explain the case properly. So that's sort of, if we put ourselves in the consumer's position, and I get it, the consumer's saying, what's the least expensive way to do something more often than not, because they don't have an understanding, right? And we can even refer back to this video with the explanation if we forget what the explanation is. So that's where these videos, I think, are important, and the understanding the misconceptions that we talked about, misunderstandings.
One thing I'd like to add to that is also, if they actually go back to the dealership and quote these parts out, they'll notice that it's a lot less expensive for ours. And the truth is, for the same price of buying maybe one component, you could probably replace the whole system with the Lumens stuff. And that would definitely entice them to do it at the same time, rather than, like you said, 2 hours labor, $200, $300. We're going to replace the bulb today. A few weeks later, the ballast has failed, and we'll pay them $200, $300. You might as well just get it all over with in one. And
a factory ballast often can be $800 to $1,000, sometimes more, just for one ballast.
I'm curious, what is the pricing on that? Do we have any information as far as you're talking about changing the bulb and then the ballast and maybe together? Like, do we have a breakdown of that? Maybe a comparison or something?
Slide over here.
Of course you do, Chris.
So, this pricing we put together for the video, so it's very current. We did shop around a little bit. We called 3 local dealerships to see who would give us the best price, because to be fair, we don't, as a consumer, I wouldn't buy the most expensive one. But they're still quite expensive. If you look at the 2013 Cadillac Escalade, and we use this because we use it for an example later on, The ballast itself is $828 each, and there's 2 of them on these vehicles. The Xenon bulb itself is $294 each, and that brings the total system cost for 2 bulbs, 2 ballasts to $2,244 just for.
To be clear, this is parts only, no labor, right? There's no labor identified.
No labor involved. No labor involved yet. Now, with our replacement parts, we also sell the ballasts individually, even though we recommend doing the whole system at once, because some people may still choose to do so, and we want to give them that option. They're $149 each. Now, the bulbs, we only sell in the pair because they're color matched at the actual factory, and we want to make sure if you get 2 bulbs, they're going to match with each other perfectly. And they're sold at $129 a pair. Now, to replace your whole system with our Lumens parts, you're looking at $427, which, you know, is a little bit of savings there, right? Every little bit counts.
A little bit?
A little bit of
bit.
savings?
That's a lot bit.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interject here. I just thought of something else. You know, you talked about that option of doing one side and then maybe preventative doing the ballast at the same time. There's also the color matching thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. It's impossible to be perfectly matched the other side factory every single time under all these applications. The way you can guarantee that is changing them all at the same time. And if you show this cost breakdown, I mean, $828 a ballast, seriously? Wow, that's crazy.
Come on. And that's not even expensive ballast, really.
And how is the Mazda ballast more than an Escalade? Like that's even, I don't know.
So if you look at the Mazda ballast, they're a little more expensive at the dealership level, but in this case here, it does have the igniter included with that pricing because there are 2 separate pieces on the Mazda. On the Escalade, the igniter is built on the bulb.
I see.
So it's not a separate piece.
That's why the bulb is more expensive.
Exactly. And with the Mazda, again, the bulb is a little less expensive, but we're still looking at $2,148. And this is on a Mazda 3. It's a great vehicle, but I wouldn't call it a luxury vehicle by any means, right? And picking up a 2013 Mazda 3 nowadays, what does that cost you? Maybe $10,000, maybe less if you can
I'd
really.
say between 7 and 8.
Yeah. So I picked up a Mazda, let's say $10,000 to be fair.
Okay.
And, you know, unlucky me, my light burnt out. Well, I have to fix that, don't I? If I go to the dealership, outside of the $10,000 I just spent on this vehicle, I need to drop another $2,148
in parts.
Yeah.
Not including the 2 or 3 hour or whatever the book time on
with labor. You're
that
probably
job.
$3,000 on a $10,000 vehicle. That's quite a bit in my opinion.
That's a third of the value of the car, roughly. Give or take. Just under that. Yeah, 30%.
So with our parts, we can help by bringing it all the way down to $516. And you're not losing any quality. You're probably getting a better product in some instances. And at this point, you can also change the color at the same time and go away from the factory halogen looking color and get into a 6K bulb, an 8K bulb, whatever you'd like.
Right.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I get it. You know, Lumens Hpl, you're providing consumers huge cost savings when they want to repair and replace their factory Xenon systems with your option. But honestly, you know, you take a look at that Mazda owner, right? Even at $500 something, which is very fair if you look at the comparison, there's going to be that customer that wants to, you know, just get headlights so they can pass inspection, get on the road. Are there more price conscious avenues that Lumens could offer in this situation?
Well, there's always eBay, so they can go on eBay and just pick up whatever. But we don't recommend that because you don't know what you're going to get. It'll be cheaper. You can go on Amazon, you can get something cheaper. But if you want to actually ensure that it's going to continually work and not just pick up anything off the market for pricing purposes, we do offer one other solution, but the consumer has to be willing to leave Xenon technology in general. I'm not asking them to go all the way back to halogen bulbs where they can't see at night, but we do have an alternative option in LEDs. And how about we just take a quick video on and take a look at how we actually figured that out on the website of the LED option we can use instead for the Type 1 bypass ballast LEDs. Let's go to the website again and search up a 2013 Mazda 3 by selecting 2013 as the year, Mazda as the make, and 3 as the model, and we'll click search. From here, every item that's been associated with this vehicle will appear under the search results, 33 in this case. We're going to go to the left section on the page with the heading Choose Bulb Application again. From here, we're going to click the option Headlight Bulb, High Beam and Low Beam with HID headlights. This filters the results to parts related specifically for the HID headlight system. You'll notice now that the filter is down to 6 items. As you scroll down, you should start to recognize some of the Xenon parts. This time we're going to skip those parts, as our customer would be willing to leave Xenon technology if it means that he could save some money. In this case, we will look for the LED bulb Type 1 bypass ballast. The Type 1 bypass ballast conversions are offered in 3 models. F06D1. This replicates the physical shape of D1, D3, and D8 bulb types. F06D2. This replicates the physical shape of D2, D4 bulb types inside the igniter that would usually be attached to these bulbs when installed. Finally, there's F06D5V2. This replicates the physical shape of D5 bulbs. If you have the original bulb type in hand and forget which Type 1 LED conversion you need, you could refer to the website where there's a cross-reference chart for the various Type 1 and Type 2 LED bulb conversions. Or you could simply look on the side of the package should you have the parts in stock, and there's another cross-reference chart located there. Electrically, all 3 bulb types function the same as they take in 12 volts DC and generate a phenomenal amount of light. What's not the same is that the benefits of these bulbs differ depending on the original bulb type they end up replacing. The light output of these bulbs is similar to that of a D1 or D2 Xenon bulb powered by 85 volts AC at 35 watts. This translates to a noticeable improvement in light when converting from a D3 or D4 Xenon bulb. For D8 and D5S bulbs, this conversion provides a significant light increase over its Xenon counterpart. This is why Lumens Hpl doesn't offer a D8 or D5 replacement Xenon bulb. It just doesn't make sense to go that route when our LED conversions exist. Older vehicles can benefit from Type 1 conversions, as they are more resilient to electrical hiccups. When vehicles age, wires become oxidized, connections become corroded, batteries get older. Power provided is just not as good as it once was. With the initial startup demand of 10 amps for a Xenon ballast, a weakened electrical system could result in a ballast not starting, or at least Xenon components not lasting as long as they should. Type 1 LED conversions will draw under 3 amps regardless if it's starting up or running. By the time there isn't enough power to light these bulbs, the vehicles would have much bigger issues to deal with. As a shop, you'll be ready to assist customers with their Xenon systems by only carrying the 3 SKUs from the Type 1 bypass ballast lineup. With Xenon parts, there are over 30 ballast types you would have to stock, making it impossible for most shops to be ready for anything when customers show up. Installation is quite easy for those comfortable with 12 volts. Skills include how to tap into a wire, how to measure for 12 volt and ground, how to remove a headlight housing from a vehicle. With the headlight assembly removed, locate the bulb and remove it. Next, locate the ballast for the system. Once you have found it, loosen it from the headlamp and disconnect all the wiring that goes into it. If there is an external igniter like this system, now's the time to remove it. Once all the wires have been disconnected, install the original ballast back onto the headlamp, as we will still use it to act as a seal for the unit. On this headlamp, we will have to drill a hole through the dust cap to run our power and ground leads from the factory connector that used to power the ballast to the new Type 1 bypass ballast conversion. Once we have the wires through, we will hardwire the power and ground leads from the LED bulb to the power and ground connector that used to be connected to the ballast. I would suggest protecting the factory connector the best you can in case the customer decides to go back to Xenons in the future. Now it's time to install the LED bulb into the housing. If the D2 bulb is held on by a spring clip, you may need to remove the collar by simply pulling on it away from the fan. Once removed, install the collar into the housing and secure it with the spring clip. Now insert the core of the bulb back into the secured collar. For proper focal alignment, be sure to ensure that the wire from the bulb is pointing straight up or straight down. Now, simply secure the driver inside the headlamp and install the dust cover back onto the housing. Before securing the headlamp to the vehicle, be sure to do a quick test to ensure everything is connected well. In summary, here are the advantages of the Type 1 bypass ballast conversions. The cost of 2 of these bulbs is substantially less than all the parts in a Xenon system. LEDs will be more resilient than Xenon to power issues within the vehicle. These bulbs remove the need to diagnose which Xenon parts have failed, ballast, bulb, igniter, and so forth. Having only 3 SKUs to cover most Xenon systems in the market simplifies stocking for dealers. These conversions are recommended for vehicles 5 years and older and are out of warranty, as we do have to cut and splice into the existing factory wires. So here we have a cost comparison, Ben, built on the last chart that we just saw, where we add the pricing for the Type 1 bypass ballast conversions. Now, from the Escalade, you'll notice that the total cost went from $427 to $238. For the Mazda 3, we went from $516 to $238. So again, we cut the price in half. That's about as low as we can go in this case. But realistically, even if I wanted to go back to halogen bulbs, where the bulb's only $5, I'd have to buy a whole new housing to replace the Xenon system. Chances are you have to either flash the BCM or do some custom wiring. You can't even get close to that price point. Like I said, at least in this case here, you're not losing any light output. And in some instances, you might actually be gaining light.
Now, I noticed that you mentioned or recommended 5 years and older. This is fantastic. Obviously, the savings are right there on black and white. But with the cutting and the splicing involved, because you do have to do that, like you mentioned, maybe you shouldn't do this for newer vehicles equipped with Xenon HID, or what's your take on that, Chris?
I definitely wouldn't if it was my vehicle. I wouldn't take the chance of ruining any warranties or and so forth. But with that being said, if for some reason you really do want to go to LEDs from a Xenon system, it's a newer vehicle, I would probably say you can try the Type 2 LEDs that we offer.
All right, and I think we have a video all about Type 2.
Type 2.
On the LumensHpl.com website, we've pulled up the Xenon parts listing for a 2019 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Notice the parts on the screen. Type 1 bypass ballast LEDs, Type 2 requires ballast LED bulbs, and finally the D3S HID bulbs. Because this vehicle is likely still under warranty, we're going to ignore the Type 1 bypass ballast LED bulb as we don't want to tamper with any of the wiring. For this example, we're also going to assume the original Xenon system is working fine, but the customer is curious about customizing or upgrading their headlights. This leaves us with two choices. First, we could go with the D3S HID bulbs to provide a color the customer prefers. Instead, the customer insists on joining the LED bandwagon. Not only that, Lumens Hpl Xenon to LED conversions matches the brightness of factory D1, D2 Xenon bulbs. In essence, these would be brighter than the D3 Xenon bulbs in his Jeep. Let's take a look at the Type 2 requires ballast LED bulbs. With the Type 2 bulbs, they require that the ballast and igniter, if it's not built on the Xenon bulb normally, to be functioning properly. You will not have to modify any wiring on the vehicle when installing. Access to the ballast is not required, assuming it's working properly, so removal of the headlight assembly may not be required. Install is as simple as removing the Xenon bulb and replacing with this LED bulb. If the original bulbs weren't D1 or D2 bulb types, you would benefit from the increased light output from these LED bulbs. Some people feel that LED lighting may be more comfortable for them to drive at night with compared to Xenon lighting. With that being said, the opposite may be true too, as it's a matter of personal opinion. In this demo, we'll be converting the factory D2 Xenon bulb to a Type 2 requires ballast bulb. Locate the dust cover that protects the Xenon bulb and remove it. Twist and remove the igniter from the Xenon bulb. For this headlight assembly, the D2 bulb is held in place by a metal spring clip. Loosen this spring clip so that you can remove the Xenon bulb. Because this bulb is held by a spring clip, we need to prep the LED bulb for install by removing the collar from the bulb core. To do so, simply pull the collar away from the fan on the core, as it is held in place by pressure. Once removed, install the bulb collar into the housing and secure it with the spring clips. Connect the LED bulb to the igniter by twisting the connector into the igniter. Now place the igniter into the headlamp. Once the igniter is out of the way, insert the bulb core back into the bulb collar. Ensure that the wires off the bulb are pointing straight up or down to ensure proper focal alignment. Install the dust cover back on. Before reinstalling the headlamp onto the vehicle, be sure to test that it's functioning properly. In summary, the advantages of the Type 2 requires ballast LEDs include: modification to the factory Xenon system is not required, avoiding any warranty issues. Because the ballast is required for this bulb, you will not have to handle the ballast. If you can remove the Xenon bulb with the headlamp on the vehicle, you may not need to disassemble the housing from the vehicle. This is the easiest way to convert from Xenon to LED technology, as these bulbs are truly plug and play. This is also the easiest way to increase light output for vehicles running D3, D4, D5, and D8 Xenon bulb types.
All right.
So for illustration, we do have the chart up again with the Type 2 LEDs added on. And you'll notice at this point, the price actually goes back up a bit because these bulbs do require the ballast to function and the igniters if there is one. Most people probably wouldn't buy a full system with the Type 2 because, like we mentioned, this would be generally used on newer vehicles only. And if that's the case, the ballast should be functional when they're brand new for a good 4 or 5 years. And hence, that's why we kind of point at the 4-year mark that I would do this. At 5 years, I would probably say hold off and either wait until the ballast has fully blown or the bulb has blown and then replace the system with Type 1. Or they can do the Type 1 conversion at that time once they're past their warranty period.
Just taking a time to analyze that chart there, Chris. I mean, you've laid it out so clear. I did not even know that there were so many options. I thought it was either replace, like I knew there were replacement Xenon kits like you've identified under the first column. And then the second option. I never knew that there was a third option, which is this plug and play use factory ballast situation. And
Right.
Well, these all came out historically the way you see it on this chart. So obviously the vehicles came out with Xenon systems. Then we came out with an alternative to replacing the OE parts. At that point in time, LED technology came out, and hence we found an advantage of cost savings if we were to hardwire it into the same power and ground that feeds the ballast and having to cut costs down. But after we did that, we realized that some people that had new vehicles wanted to convert to LEDs, and there was a good chunk of the market. At that point, we were like, well, we don't recommend you cut anything. And they're like, well, what should we do? And we're like, we'll have to get back to you in 6 months.
And for the record, I want to say Chris Chiang just coined the term LED bandwagon. Hashtag.
Yes. Hashtag LED bandwagon.
All right. So quick takeaway before we take away to remove the screen. I mean, guys, screenshot this. This is what you need to know. This is a great example of breaking out for a customer, right? And there's two very interesting examples there. One's an Escalade, another's a Mazda 3. Keep in mind that, you know, if you're looking at a 5-year-old or older vehicle, that Type 1 LED conversion option for the LED bandwagoners is great. But it involves a little bit of cutting, a little bit of splicing. Yes, Ramesh.
I have my hand up about the Type 2.
Go ahead.
Interesting. So we were looking at the pricing and just kind of shouting out to dealers and consumers. Before you discard Type 2, based on the cost analysis and run back over to the Xenon parts, I wanted to underline what Chris did say, which was, hey, in the Type 2 scenario, you're probably not going to purchase a ballast replacement, right? So that math includes the ballast replacement at 536 and 616, but in both cases, you're removing between $300 and $400 depending on the scenario, right? Almost 400, right? Between 300 and what is that? 390, 380, 380, right? So you're moving through between 300 and 380 from that math equation in that 4-year or less year-old vehicle with an OE ballast. So it's still a viable viable upgrade based both on price and performance, because you won't be including the ballast. Like, so the math is accurate, but that's not a scenario that you're probably, using Chris's advice, that's not a scenario, a price scenario that you're going to come across often. Is that fair, Chris?
Not. I would say the only time that you would ever do that full system for the Type 2,
if you're me,
is if the consumer is not sure if they would like to go back to Xenon one day.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, by retaining the ballast, I can always go back to Xenon and remove the LED bulb directly, and it'd be very easy to do at that point.
Right, but the Type 2, like what you were saying was, to a dealer, if it's 4 years or less, you're not going to sell them a ballast. The ballast should be fine. The OE ballast should be fine, correct? Like, it should be functional in most scenarios, unless it's an extremely high mileage vehicle.
Exactly.
Right? I got a question. Performance. Will it outperform the factory Xenon with this LED option?
It will if you are not on the D1 or D2 Xenon type. At the D1 and D2 Xenon type, these LED bulbs are roughly the same brightness.
Okay, so they're not gaining any luminosity or performance.
Other than long-term durability of the bulb, probably.
Right. Okay.
But at D3, D4, yes, you will be gaining a little bit of light improvement. But at D5 or D8, it's a substantial gain. So when I talk about gain in light performance, you know our company well enough now. We don't like to talk about the actual lumens ratings because it's kind of all over the map. But in reality, from a D5 to Xenon bulb to our LED bulb, I would say the difference is almost the same as going from a halogen bulb to our Xenon conversion kits.
Okay, significant.
So without talking numbers, what do you think would a percentage be a fair number to use?
I'm gonna ask if we can,
like 20%, 30%.
So we can finalize this discussion, please.
Sorry.
Well, I'm just going to ask our director to take down this slide, and we can finish off with this discussion.
So as a percentage, it depends. To my eyes and to most people's eyes, it'll feel twice as bright. Right?
Okay.
So we've always said Xenon HID lighting is roughly 3 times the brightness of halogens, which, you know, in lumens on paper is true. To our eyes, maybe just over twice as bright. Realistically, it's not really. It doesn't feel like it's 3 times brighter. I mean, I know all the marketing says that. But again, from a D5, a lot of people are complaining, you know, I have halogens. They come in, I have halogens in my vehicle. You open it up and it's like, that's not a halogen bulb.
It's
well,
it's a really low output HID.
We're better than this. And we're like, well, that you need to talk to the engineer of that D5 bulb. It's just not as great as what it's advertised to be. And hence, you throw in the LED bulb and it's like, all right, this is what I was expecting when I saw Xenon, when I was expecting Xenon, except it's LED.
Fair enough, fair enough.
And one of the benefits to LEDs, to some people, and it's opinionated, is it's a softer light. They feel more comfortable driving behind LEDs than they do Xenon. But as we were chatting the other day, Ben, you turn around and say, well, I feel like Xenon is better.
I stand by that. I went to look at my vehicles after we had that conversation, and I stand by that. I feel the Xenon is a softer presentation than the LED. But again, those are my eyes. It's subjective.
It's personal opinion.
Yeah. All right. So
it's how your rods and cones in your eyes work, and your brain perceives
all right.
that.
So in summary, this has been a fantastic workshop. I learned a lot, so I know you guys at home learned a lot. Chris has outlined exactly step by step how to deal with and optimize an engagement with the customer, regardless of the situation. If it's an older vehicle, a recent vehicle, Xenon lights, different options, all laid out for you with price analysis. If you're looking for more information on Lumens HPL product, I want to bring up the website right here. I know it's referred to many times during this video, but here it is. It's lumenshpl.com. That is the website as far as anything that Chris showed today, the products, so on and so forth. And also, we also have their, obviously for Importel, if you're a dealer and you're looking to get on with this and get some of these products in your store, importel.com. That's obviously where you want to. East and West at that.
East and West.
Gentlemen, fantastic. Chris, thank you so much for the preparation on this workshop. I know dealers are going to be very, very appreciative of this. This is going to be a video that Ramesh is going to be emailing a lot.
I will be regurgitating this email in bits, pieces, with timestamps and things. It'll be going all over the country.
Yeah.
Chris, it was, there's more information there than I've probably, as much as I pick your brain and kind of beat you with a stick. Poor Chris. There's more information there than probably we've covered in years, and in every year this has probably been the most informative segment. So thanks for putting that all together for us.
Thank you.
And that crazy website with all the installation instructions and by vehicle.
I want to shout out to Mrs. Chiang for all that effort. Apparently, brainchild behind the website. So big shout out to her. Chris, Ramesh, thank you so much for this workshop, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
All right. That was an amazing workshop put on by Chris Chiang from Lumens HPL and Ramesh joining me from Importel as well. Now, I want to remind you, if you're into lighting, which you should be, this is the season for it, Keep it locked on CMA Networks right through till September 23rd. We are going through one brand at a time, some big lighting brands to make sure you are aware of all your options this lighting season. All right. And now I got to talk about this great contest we got going on. We're giving away two, not one, but two different prizes, one for an American citizen and one for Canadian, for the Ultimate Fab Experience giveaway. It's your chance to be a part of the MasterTech Expo, all expenses paid. All you got to do is head over to our website, cmanetworks.com/giveaway. Fill out the form, sign up in collaboration with 5-Axis Innovations and SiriusXM. While you're on our website, check out all the great videos we've done with either Importel, with Lumens, or even in the lighting category at large. It's where the 12-volt industry connects, cmanetworks.com. That's it for this CMA workshop presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
Stop it. Yo, roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?